Hello viewers of Spell. Today we're going to be doing What If Midoriya Had Dimensional Magic? The My Hero Academia and Black Clover crossover. Now, to scale things before we get started, this is my first more or less fully scripted video. Hopefully this will help me in the editing process and be less awkward at some bits. Other than that, scheduling on videos might get a little hanky coming up just because I'm new at scripting, so it's taking a little bit longer than if I got things fully put together. So, without further ado, let's begin this what if. And we left with Midoriya confronting Kodagiri, the Nomu, and Shigaraki by almost complete accident because he's trying to prevent Kodagiri from escaping, but wound up facing off with the other two villains as well. And on to this week's What If. Shigaraki would look up at All Might at the top of the stairs and say, "I see the final boss has finally arrived. Nomu, get ready." As Midoriya would use Shift to get close enough to Aizawa, and then use minor teleportation to get both of them disappearing and appearing at the top of the steps. All Might would shoot down the stairs, taking out several villains on the way, as him and Nomu would clash. As debris flew up around them, they struck each other so quickly and powerfully that shockwaves would travel out. It would look like they had a half dozen arms each as they slugged away at each other. As Midoriya would look on to the battlefield, he would be shocked. The blows were traveling so fast. He'd seen Asta move quickly, but this was ridiculous. He silently whispered to himself. Shigaraki would say, "You think you can just overpower him like that? My Nomu has shock absorption." As All Might would quickly try to trick the Nomu and try to pull a suplex on him, with him bringing him down, it resulting in a massive explosion of force that would shock everyone on the stairs. Everyone on the top of the stairs. They looked down, breath caught in their throats. Many of them had believed he had done it. Well, when the smoke cleared, they realized that the smoke villain they saw earlier had used one of his portals so that the Nomu would go through it instead of crashing into the ground. Right behind All Might, grabbing him. All Might would look pained as the Nomu's fingers would dig into his side. Midoriya would charge his magic sword, made out of mana, would glow intensely. Midoriya would think, "I got to go. Go down there and help. Just can't let them kill him." Midoriya would charge down the steps, using Shift to charge Kodagiri. He would appear a few feet away with his sword outstretched. As Shigaraki would stick his hand through the portal to touch Midoriya, but Midoriya had his sword outstretched. Shigaraki would try to pull his hand away from the sword, but it was too late, as it cut a gash from one side of the palm to the other. Shigaraki would scream in pain, "You brat! You cut me!" Midoriya would stand there for a second as an explosion went off a couple feet from him, come out of nowhere. As Kirishima and Bakugo had arrived, the Nomu would be frozen on one side up to his hand by Todoroki, and Bakugo would be holding down Kodagiri, the smoke villain. Kodagiri would squirm as an explosion would burst against his neck brace. Bakugo would threaten that, "I'll blow you up if you don't stop squirming." As All Might would break free of the Nomu's grasp and get back on his feet, he would tell the kids to get out of there as the Nomu would break the ice, escaping. Everyone was shocked until they saw regenerate. Midoriya would have a bit of bile raise in his throat at the mangled body that was reforming. As all of them stood in shock, the Nomu would regenerate. And Shigaraki would say, "Nomu, free Kodagiri." As a large blast of air would push past Midoriya as he yelled, "Bakugo!" But he would see behind him that All Might had taken the blow. He would look behind him and see that All Might had taken the blow. As All Might would stand, saying, "Thanks for saving me, kids. I think I'm only gonna fall for that trick once." As All Might would push the Nomu back, they would rush towards each other as fists clashed like thunder. This time, the blows were too fast for them to follow. It just looked like a wave of motion, as sound like thunder and air rushed past their faces. Midoriya would wonder for a second if he would have hearing loss. He would push this thought aside, though. He dared not look away from the battle that decided their fate. As All Might started overpowering the Nomu, All Might would say, "You mentioned before it had shock absorption, not nullification," as he began to overwhelm the Nomu, as he sent the Nomu flying backwards. As he said, "That means he has an upper limit." After that, Midoriya and the rest of the group lost track of the battle, as what appeared to be a bluish, yellowish blur and a black blur started rushing across the battlefield. This would only last a second, though, as the black blur would fly up into the air, with what appeared to be All Might rushing up after him, grabbing his leg and throwing him down to the ground. All Might shooting back to the ground next to him. "You said before this was meant to defeat me, but I'll teach you what these words truly mean," as air compressed around his fist, as he said, "Plus Ultra!" with All Might's fist shooting into the Nomu, propelling him into the air with a massive shockwave. It would collide with the outer wall of the USJ and fly straight through onto the other side. Shigaraki would be nursing his arm, and simply say to Kogiri, "We're leaving," as the door opened and the UA Pro Hero teachers would rush in. Shigaraki would escape, but as Kotagiri was about to disappear, Midoriya would run over to him. Midoriya's grimoire would appear, adding a new page, as Midoriya tried grabbing Kotagiri, as he would disappear in a purple flash of light. Midoriya realizing that he had accidentally teleported Kotagiri somewhere. He realized he had just randomly teleported Kotagiri to who knows where. And all the teachers would quickly save whoever was left, ending this little bit of the arc. The students would be rescued, the police would follow up and haul off the criminals to jail. They would also interview the students, making sure Midoriya didn't incinerate the smoke villain, as Midoriya would explain that he had actually used his quirk to teleport the smoke villain to where he didn't know. He didn't have a location in mind, so he couldn't even start to think where he teleported him to. Classes would be postponed for a few days. Midoriya would go home, with him planning to go to visit Austin the Black Bulls, but before he could, someone would knock on his door. It was Bakugo, demanding to know, "What's up with your quirk?" Power, gesturing to Midoriya. Midoriya would say, "I don't know what you mean." Bakugo responding with, "You can conjure a sword, use 2 different types of teleportation. What is your quirk, Midoriya?" Midoriya would look around saying, "I'm surprised no one else is with you. I'm sure they're going to have questions for me." Bakugo responded with, "They probably did, but I'm the only one who knows where you live." Midoriya, knowing that he needs to come clean to someone, eventually Midoriya would just tell Bakugo to meet him at the overpass. The one I used to go under to get home from our old school. Meet me there in an hour. Now, a scene in the Black Clover universe. Kotagiri would wake up on the ground. He thought he saw a skull in the distance. Ugh, that boy must have teleported me using his quirk. Where am I? I can feel my way back home, but it's distant. I should check out this location further. As Kotagiri teleported away. Okay! I hope you like this part of What If Midoriya Had Dimensional Magic. First scripted video, And the first video of 2022. Now, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more content, and please leave any ideas you have in the description you would like to see. I hope to bring you more what ifs that are scripted because I do think it definitely helped. This is Belri, signing off.